Wanna look, wanna let you see. Wanna speak, wanna let you say. Run it back, same as before.
Punk rock was really sort of a dissatisfaction about rock and roll. It became one thing, or it became a narrower thing, and it was at the exclusion of anything else. Because you were passionate about music, we were passionate about music. You got angry, passion, anger. There's punk rock. There you go.
Here comes one single warning, coming to you from over the way.
Formed in 1976, the same year that the Sex Pistols and the Ramones released their first singles, Cinecyde were, depending who you ask, Detroit's first punk band.
We thought we were completely alone. Detroit was filled with cover bands, and just doing rock and roll covers. That just wasn't what I was looking for. It wasn't a good enough kick.
We decided to make a record, Gutless Radio, which is sort of an anthem against radio at the time.
We don't like you now, Gutless Radio. We don't like the things we hear.
As we discovered that there were some other things going on in other parts of the country or other parts of the world, you would get wind of some sort of underground band or something, and there was just no possibility that they would play any of that stuff. I mean, it was sort of brash. I mean, most bands in rock and roll would be, I want to be signed. I want the industry to love me. In our case, we were, sort of just slamming the industry with the idea that it would be, we would do it yourself. We would issue our own records and things.
They were one of the central bands in what became, by the early 80s, a thriving, eclectic, fiercely independent punk scene in Detroit.
All the clubs, and there were a lot of them that were doing punk, they were full like every night. It didn't matter who played. In fact, a lot of kids would go to the bars just because they knew something was going to go on there.
It was an eclectic scene. So, there was a nice spectrum of bands. It wasn't one thing. It was, it could be bands that were very roots-oriented, or it could be bands that were, more rock and roll, a little electronica, kind of stuff was sneaking in there. But, it all seemed to, the commonality was, it had to be a little raw, had to have a little bit of an edge.
45 years later, Cinecyde are still going strong, are still totally DIY, and just released their 8th album with the pulp sci-fi inspired title track, Vegetable or Thing.
This is a project that we worked on for a while, actually before the pandemic, and then finished it up during the pandemic. Chris Gerard was in the band and played bass with us, and we recorded a lot of that with him in the band, and then he had health troubles, and Chris went on his hiatus, and we always thought that he would end up back in the band, but things did turn for the worse, and he died. Just an amazing guy, a beautiful soul, a great creator. He always had an innovative and interesting way to look at things. Maybe 2/3 of the record was, with Chris or something, was close to being done, but we kept putting it off and putting it off. We were mixing and things during the COVID thing. So essentially, we just stayed safe and tried to be safe, but I thought we have to release this. We're not going to not release it, and we're just going to have to try different things like
maybe we could do a re-release when the bars
we
open.
could.
So being in the independent music scene, the Detroit punk scene for just about 45 years, how have you seen the scene change, and how has your approach to making punk rock changed?
I don't know that I can say anything about a scene. I'm always interested in what's going on in Detroit. There's a load of great musicians, load of great people creating and making music and stuff. I mean, it's through all these different eras, through the 80s, 90s, 2000s now. I think that Detroit is sort of underplayed. It doesn't get the exposure that it should.
Has your approach to writing punk rock changed? Is it still the same sensibility, the same spirit?
I mean, Cinecyde is Cinecyde, and it has a specific kind of sound, but I would say we evolve every time, every song.
To me, punk was just about getting back to our roots, stripping music down and being, being fun, yes, being aggressive, it could be, but also, respecting and understanding those roots, and those roots could be anything from, some of the garage band sounds of 65, 66, or it could be rockabilly from the 50s, X from Los Angeles. Of course, I always appreciated the Cramps, or it could be, Hank Williams or Johnny Cash. It could be any of that kind of stuff that you're bringing to a simplicity and a more directness. The music is just, for me, it just plays in my head, so it plays in your head, and then you just kind of, try to work it out on an instrument, and then boom, there it is. Maybe, for us, maybe for me, it's just, it's my personality.